On the morning of January 20th, 2017, Washington, D.C. was filled with an unusual atmosphere. The country was preparing for the inauguration of a new president. But inside the White House, an entirely different story was unfolding. Barack Obama was spending his final hours as president. When he woke up, his emotions were indescribable. That day, he would be walking out of the White House for the last time as commander-in-chief. The weather was cold and cloudy, but the storm inside him was much stronger. He got up early, put on his running shoes, and took a short walk in the White House garden. His thoughts wouldn't stop racing. Did I really do everything right? He wondered. He had made monumental decisions, witnessed historic moments, and touched the lives of millions. But like every president before him, he was leaving with unfinished business and a few regrets. Later that morning, Obama walked into the Oval Office for one final official meeting. This would be his last as President of the United States. Seated around the table were his closest advisors and cabinet members, including Joe Biden, Valerie Jarrett, and Susan Rice. As the meeting began, a heavy silence filled the room. Obama scanned the faces around him. These were not just colleagues. They were the people who had walked this journey with him. Their expressions were a mix of pride, sadness, and uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, Obama finally spoke. "Friends, today marks the end of an era. For 8 years, we did everything in our power for this country. Sometimes we won, sometimes we lost. But history won't judge us solely by our successes. It will judge us by the values we upheld." No one in the room looked away. Then one of his advisors finally broke the silence. "Mr. President, what worries you the most about the next administration?" Obama paused, looking out the window. There were many concerns on his mind about the future of the country, but one fear stood above the rest. "Never forget that democracy is fragile," he said. "It must be protected every single day. If people are turned against each other, if the press is silenced, if the rule of law is undermined, that's when we truly lose. The next administration may change policies, but they cannot change our belief in our core values. The real question is, what will we do to protect them?" The room fell silent again. No one had an easy answer. As the meeting ended, Obama asked to spend a few moments alone. Sitting in the chair behind his desk, he took in the room around him. This was where some of the most critical decisions of his presidency had been made. His eyes fell on a framed photo of Martin Luther King Jr. He thought to himself, "We've come this far, but there's still a long way to go." He opened the drawer of his desk one last time. Inside was a handwritten note from Michelle, given to him on the first day of his presidency. It read, "No matter what happens, never forget who you are." He smiled. Running his hand over the desk one last time, he stood up, adjusted his chair, and took a deep breath. Before walking out, he turned back for one final look at the Oval Office, as if trying to etch it into his memory. Outside, his wife Michelle and their daughters, Malia and Sasha, were waiting on the White House steps. The sound of a helicopter engine filled the air. Marine One was ready to take him away. Standing nearby were Donald Trump and his wife Melania, waiting to greet them. Tradition dictated that the outgoing and incoming presidents share a moment together. Obama and Trump locked eyes. After a brief handshake, Obama gave a slight nod. His time was officially over. As he stepped into the helicopter, he glanced out the window for one last look at the White House. The place he had called home for 8 years was now someone else's. As Marine One lifted off, the city of Washington began to shrink beneath him. He let out a deep sigh and thought to himself, "This isn't the end. It's a new beginning." A slight smile crossed his face, because he knew that real change didn't start with a president. It started with the people.